Hello, everyone. I'm so excited for this broadcast. We have a lot of people waiting backstage for this exciting new session. And today we have the wonderful Dr. Bolikia, Justo Bolekia. We have Mr. Linford Sweeney. We have Sister Bahula, who is Ancestry Bubi. And of course, one of our favorite professors, Mr. Gerard, who's in Benin. And of course, you have me today. Today is really interesting because with our roundtables that we're going to slowly bring people on, we're going to talk about knowing thyself. And as you see with the ticker running across the screen, we're going to be talking about heritage, ancestry, and language, right? And how to know yourself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our first guest, Dr. Bolikia. Dr. Bolikia, will you like to tell everyone knows who you are if they watch our channel enough, but if you can, because I don't want to introduce you the wrong way. I can introduce you, but I want to introduce you the right way because you're everything. You're an author. You're a professor. You are a Bubi ancestry. You teach the language. So I just want to make sure that if you want to, you have the opportunity to speak about other things as well. So would you like to introduce yourself, Baba? I call him Baba, guys. To you, it's Dr. Justo Bolekia, but to me, it's Baba.
Yes. Thank you, Shayla. Thank you all to listening. It is not easy to introduce myself, because I don't used to do that. I like people who are introducing me, but to do it by myself, it is not easy because I don't know what I can say about me.
Yeah.
What you said is true. I'm a professor since 37 years in the University of Salamanca in Spain. I'm writing literature, essays, poetry, novel, story tales. I'm doing many things, but what I would like to do is to stay in my village, to collaborate with those who want to learn our language, our ancestry languages, to know more my culture, my Bubi culture, because I don't. I think I don't know much about it, so I would like to ask my elders to still teach me about our culture, because if I when I talk with them, I learn who I am. Every time I listen to them, I listen myself, and I try to discover who I am, because it is not easy to stay in Europe, to stay in Western country, and keep being who you are. So that's why I'm fighting a lot to do to still learning, to still teaching our Bubi language, our culture, and to help people to know themselves. So this is what I can do. This is what I can say about me. So if you want to know anything about me, please Google Google me. Yes, just Google. Yes.
Dr. Bolikia actually has an what do you call it, like a Wikipedia. So he is verified and completely legit, and he's one of our elders. Who, for those, I would say not even ancestral Bobe, but in terms of how I met Dr. Bolikia, like many people, I actually did ancestry first, so I had an idea where my folks who were kidnapped were from. And then I did AfricanAncestry.com as a follow-up to it, just to make sure the map was mapping, and it made a lot of sense. And for my own DNA, the two highest markers for on ancestry side is Nigerian and Cameroon. And it makes a lot of sense because on the African ancestry side, it's the little island right off the coast of Cameroon called Bioko Island. And with that being said, we're going to actually bring in Bahula because she also had the same experience as me. And we're going to have this first very segment to speak about preserving the Bobe people and who are we? What do we like? And that's why we need Dr. Bolikia to really lead this conversation in many ways, and Bahula and myself to kind of add in kind of the sauce, the saison, so to speak. So Bahula, as we bring you on, please tell us about you, tell us about your projects so that the audience can understand you and how you're serving the community.
Okay. Lomayalo, greetings to everyone. My name is Barbara Bahula May, and I live in the United States. And I learned that I was a Bubi in November of 2020. And then after that, in February, I started taking the class with Baba, with Professor, to learn Bubi language. And he taught us our language and our culture. And he really embraced us and accepted us into the Bubi community and the Bubi family. After that, Aria TV came to me and asked me to make a documentary about our experience, about the descendants' experience with Baba. And she came to me in May for that. And in October, I completed the film. And I think in November was when I started teaching a beginner Bubi class. I think that's when that started. And then February of 2022 of this year, I went to Madrid for the Bubi Mother Tongue Festival, where the documentary called The Lost Children of Bioko Island premiered. And I was able to actually dance with my people for the first time. Professor dragged me out of my seat and got me out on the stage so I could dance. And then in April of this year, I got married to Bubi singer and songwriter, Master Robocho. And we started making a magazine called Ekoto. It actually came out in April, and we started a website called Diversity Echo Project, which talks about a Bubi culture, language, and that's me. And so ancestry is very important because, like you were saying, it teaches you who you are as a person. And also, it opens up like a whole new world for you. And you become more rich.
A whole new universe.
A whole new universe. And you become rich like in community and knowledge.
Yes.
And wisdom. Mm-hmm. And new ideas and new experiences. Mm-hmm. Really, it's really a foundation for you to stand on. And it makes you know who you are. And it makes you comfortable. And also,
your skin.
And also confident.
Mm-hmm. In your skin.
In yourself.
In yourself. That's right.
Yeah.
So, Baba, I want to pivot to you just really quickly, of course. And when you first taught our very first flagship class, the Bobe, how was your, because you know our experience, we embraced it, we took it in. How was it like for you? Because it was moments in that first class, which I was a part of too, in that first class, and Bahula, you probably remember this because it was such a moment. It was such a moment where you had a slide and it was black. Remember that, Bahula? Yes. That was like a moment because you was like you were lost, you were gone. And I felt that in my spirit. I think all of us felt it. So for you, Baba, and again, Dr. Bolikia, for those who cannot call him Baba. How did it feel for you seeing us want to know who us are and is? So tell me about that, Dr. Bolikia.
You know, I used to do theater, okay? Theater. Sometimes you have to play with special effect. I don't know if you understand what I want to say. It's like the first class every year with my students. I have to impress them. I have to guide them. I have to lead them to know that they are in a space without light, without so they need to learn how to off the light, how to how to on their lights, how to on the light, to switch on the light, to learn how to grow, how to go through their path, through their way. That's why when we met, I said, okay, these guys, these ladies and guys, I want to know something about their nature, about their culture. So they need to switch on some light to by themselves start searching who they are. And the only way they can learn who they are is through the language, but not only the words, but not only the sounds of the words, but through the language and culture and their culture. That is why every time we start teaching, every time we meet, I try to not only teach the language, but also tell you about our culture, about our being as human beings, as members of specific Bubi culture. For me, it was very important to meet you, because I heard about those young boobies, ladies, young girls, young boys who were kidnapped by the slaves. How do you call it?
Traders.
The traders.
Traders.
So
Human
when
traffickers
the
would be
traffic,
the modern
so
word.
when we met, I said, "Oh, these are those who were kidnapped. Oh, so what do they have? What can I tell them? What can I share with them? The only thing I have is the language and the culture. So I will try to share it with them so that they can start looking, finding who they are. That's why I start teaching the language, the sounds, the words, the classes, the verbs, the these, the images, etc. In order to let you think who you are in this black wall. Not black because of colors, because of the colors of the people. No, this black world without no light, without no sun. This is why this is what I thought when before starting teaching. This is what I thought, and this is what I'm trying to do until today. Because every time, even today, I was talking about you in a meeting. I say, oh, our future, we Bubi people in the diaspora, in the island, our future now is also on your hands, because we have to work together, because we can't, as we know that you are there, we can't go on without you. You can't move without us, because we are sharing the same Hennes, gin, they
The
say
blood. It's the blood. Life
blood,
is blood, you
share
know.
the
It's the
same.
blood.
I
That is why.
wanted to touch on something you asked. You asked Baba what this meant to him. And in class, he taught us this song called Wewe Opo about an ancestral mother who had lost her child
Mm-hmm.
slavery. Okay. And that song really, really just changed my perspective. And
Why? Tell us why. Like why? That part.
it made me understand that this mom, she cared for us. She was looking for us. And then that kind of touches on, I believe, Baba's experience of finding us and reconnecting with us.
Yeah.
So it's important for the both of us, that coming together. And that was actually in the documentary. It was us being found in our experience and the excitement of us finding our African counterparts, but it was also about how, Baba felt about it and that it was important and exciting to him. And so he is totally right about us coming together. That's what this is about.
Y'all know I'm making little notes. I got a lot to say. We're just warming up, guys. Again, this is Shayla with Resplendence. We're here with Dr. Bolikia, Sister Bahula, who's a Bubi ancestry. We have other people in the background waiting. It's an exciting broadcast that we're talking about, which is heritage, ancestry, culture, music. It's all of it, right? And how do we know that stuff? So how can that project us and propel us to the future, right? Especially now, and I'm I'll say how old am I? I don't mind. I'm 42, and I'm getting to the point now. I am turning into an elder, right? So being the auntie in many ways, I'm turning into a teacher. So I have to learn from people like Baba. I have to learn from my elders in order to teach the next generation. Right. And in order for me to be able to be a proper teacher, I have to know thyself first, and like what Dr. Bolikia said, it's like right now, many of us, we're in a room with no light. We have been we're called diasporans for a reason because we're outside of home. And outside of home, we don't even have the moonlight to light our way, right? And it's certain people through the lens of history, through American and UK and other places, where we had just a starlight, like MLK, like people prior to him and others who has helped light who we are, bring our confidence back. I don't think we truly understand, truly grasp it, the health part of being enslaved. Not only just losing everything. When you say everything, that's a kind of an easy word to say. But if you really analyze it and dissect everything, it's you lost your mom. Can you imagine? You are maybe 7 or 8, 5. And you're taken by these kidnappers, these human traffickers. You're by yourself. You're probably cold, depending on the time of year you were taken. And people on the ship, some of them may speak your language. Can you imagine? Like it's unimaginable. It's unimaginable. And so we have traces. All we have is footprints. We have traces of the truth. Traces. But if we get enough traces, we can forge a way back home. We can forge a way back to ourselves. And I think that's the reason why we're all here today, is to forge that way back to self. And as we look at history, I'm actually going to bring in Mr. Linford Sweeney in, but we're going to talk about history. We're going to talk about history, untold histories, and that's when we'll put Gerard into the broadcast. And at the end, we're actually going to be naming giving someone a Bubi name and hearing her story as well. So that's what this is all about, guys. It's just making sure that we can forge a new way while reconnecting, while we're pulling everybody on our shoulders. We're pulling the kids on our shoulders in terms of making this new direction. We're holding hands and we're forging, you know. So let's talk about the history too. We're talking about the history of Bubi people first. I want to hear a really quick. We're not in class today, Dr. Bolikia, but in terms of like the history, I mentioned again, I'm from Nigeria and ancestry wise, Nigeria and Cameroon. Tell us where the Bubi people ancestry wise, where are we actually from? Because you kind of explain it to us, but for those who are watching, they may not know.
Yes.
So, what's the history behind Bioko Island in terms of how did we get there? How do we get to Bioko Island?
Yes. Okay. You have to know that Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, Cameroon didn't exist at that time. Just we only had at that time ethnic groups. Okay, we have Yoruba people, we have Bubi people, we have Bakwere people, etc. And the area where the today Cameroonians, the today Bubi, the today Yoruba, the today Douala people are, at that time was the most populated area in Africa. Okay, so the contact between and every group were permanent. Okay, permanent. So that is why today you have people with the same names in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in Bioko Island, etc. Because years ago, maybe 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, these people were together. Okay, so but when the slavery started, the ethnic group scattered. Okay, they scattered to protect themselves from the traders, the slavery. Okay, so we Bubi people, we went to the island, as I told you, 8,000 years ago. 8,000 years ago. Okay, and so at that time you can work from the Cameroonian coast to the island. Okay, but maybe sometime 1,000 years ago, people couldn't go to the island by themselves. They have to use boats, etc. So even today, it's normal to meet people like if you see them, you will think that they are Bubi people in Cameroon, in Ghana, in Nigeria, etc. Because we Bubi people, we were not part from Central Africa. We are part of West Africa. Okay, West Africa. Even in our how do you call it? In our appearance, in our language, etc. We are part of West Africa. Okay, so it's normal for us to connect with those from Nigeria, those from Cameroon, West Cameroon, etc. It's normal for us. For us, Bubi people, it's very normal. It's not because of the colonization. It's not because of the slave traders. No, at that time, we have contact with Bubi people, Yoruba people, Igbo people, etc. We had many contacts. That's why it's normal that you have some percentage from Nigeria, percentage from Cameroon, percentage from the Bioko Island, because we were together at that time. We're together, and that's why even this organization like ancestry.com, they say that these people are from the same area, okay, from the same zone. You can't see someone who say that your ancestor come from Bioko and Tanzania normally is in the same area. Okay.
Right.
The same
Absolutely.
area.
Absolutely. Let's bring on Mr. Sweeney because he's going to add some texture around history. Like everyone else, Mr. Sweeney, please introduce yourself. If you have websites and if projects coming up, please say those in your introductions. And we'll talk about that history too, and that connection. Because if we're saying that, and it's true, not just we're saying, that, Bubi is Cameroon, which is true. And then you have the Ghanaians and the Nigerians. Then we're also going to bring in Brother Gerard because he's, his country is Benin, but it wasn't always Benin, right? We weren't always in America, so things aren't always what it seems to appear to be. So, Mr. Sweeney, put some texture around the history of that area or the history of just the migration and how we connect and disconnected and things of that caliber, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I will try my best. The first thing I need to say is that I was born in Jamaica in the Caribbean. But when I actually looked at my DNA, I found out that I'm also of Nigerian descent, Cameroon descent, and Benin and Togo.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm particularly from the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Isan, and the Katsina, and also the Tika people from
Katsina make beautiful
Cameroon. And I've got a bit of Mende blood in me also. Yeah, as I said, we're all quite mixed in the Caribbean because people have come from various different ethnic groups and they've come together in the Caribbean, or they've been forced together. Yeah, so it's a difficult one when we're tracing our ancestors, but now I've got a clearer picture as to where my father's ancestors are from and where my mother's are from. And I'm made up of all these various peoples, so hopefully that makes me stronger. Yes. So,
and as we look at, as we peer into the lens of history, rather, and we look at that particular area, Cameroon and Benin and Nigeria. Nigeria is huge, but Nigeria, if we're adding that in Ghana, what were some of the things that was going on in that point in history where obviously it was slavery, but let's peel that onion a little bit more. I want to look into artifacts and our songs and our spiritualities and things that we lost and during that period and during that time period. So again, if you can help me with the history side of things, I would love to learn from you, Mr. Sweeney.
Right. The thing is, I would say that what I've learned from about history comes from other people. I've never been to Africa. My plan is to go next year. Yeah, I need to be in Africa next year. But the point is, the moment,
you will.
I'm sorry.
You will be there.
Yes. I'll be there. So. What I know, I ran a course on West African history, and what I found out with all the richness in terms of language, in terms of dance, in terms of music, looking at the different kingdoms that existed at the time. Say, for instance, you had the Mali Empire, you had the Songhai Empire. You then went on to the Ashanti Empire, the Ashanti Kingdom, and you had a whole range of different peoples in that area and different nation states. And each of those nation states, like Oyo, for instance, in Nigeria, and each of those nation states then got dragged into trading with the Europeans. And trading with the Europeans now initially seemed to have been a reasonably good thing for at least the first 100 years or so. But then we had something called sugar, and we had something else called cotton. And those two things, particularly sugar in the Caribbean, created a demand for enslaved people who could actually work in the Caribbean on the sugar plantation. But instead of actually bringing people across to work and to be paid, they enslaved them and took them to the Caribbean. And for instance, my great grandfather was an enslaved man who came over on a ship around 1806 to Jamaica from Africa, but I'm not certain where in Africa he came from. I would have to trace the ships because I don't know what ship he actually came on. But these are the things that happened at that particular time. And as you probably already know, there is a gentleman by the name of J.A. Rogers who's passed now. He started writing in America. He moved from Jamaica to America, and he started writing about African history and about American history, etc. And he's had books such as Nature Knows No Color Line, From Superman to Man, 100 Facts About the Negro, and this was somebody who I started learning about history from. And one of the things he said, I quote, "The significance of African history is shown through, though not overtly, in the very effort to deny anything worthy of the name of history to Africa and the African peoples." Yeah. So that's where they began with the race and the old concept of race, which, as you know, it's a social concept. There's no reality at all.
Right.
And they also started with this idea that Africans were savages, they were primitive, they were not intelligent, and they were less human than Europeans. So you can see where it all began. And then that created a whole lot of different problems, even though at the same time they were trading with these nations. And some of these nations, the Europeans had to bow down before the royalty and the kings of the African nations. But yet they're now saying that they're not really, they're primitive. So that sort of gives you an idea as to what was going on at the time. It started out as trade between Europe, although in reality Portugal actually invaded West Africa in the mid 1400s. They brought enslaved people back to Portugal, which were the first enslaved people we know of that were taken from Africa. Before that, the old concept of black and white didn't even exist. That only came later. Yeah. So all this was created around the 1500s, 1600s, and the 1700s, particularly in the 1600s. That's when a lot of the slave codes were written, and it became legal for somebody to actually enslave somebody and have that person has what they call a chattel, a permanent enslaved person, and that person's family would then also be enslaved. So, and in Africa, the similar things happened because in South Africa there was slavery. There were over 70 to 80,000 enslaved people in South Africa, and people aren't fully aware of that. Yeah, and there were enslaved people in West Africa also, but we're talking about not the ones who were servants. We're talking about actual enslaved people, enslaved by the Europeans, but they were in Africa. So I don't know whether that gives you some.
Oh no, that was tasty. That was definitely tasty, and I understand it a little bit more clearly. And one of the things I like when we start talking about ancestry is I look into Cameroon, I look at the Bubi people, and Baba, you had mentioned this, and please correct me if I'm wrong. You mentioned, or did I read it? I think you mentioned it, where like we tried to fight the human traffickers. Like we would go up. I think the way Bioko is set up, we would go up to the top mountains, and that's how we held the position. Could you tell us more about that part for those? Because see, it's certain things I know that I want to make sure that everyone else who's tuning in knows too about Bubi people. So could you tell me how we attempted to, not attempted, we did defend ourselves to some degree, but how do we defend ourselves that you know from history?
You know, Bubi people, we used to do some rites, botoi. We used to do the botoi. Is a fertility ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
We used to do it every year, in maybe in the month of May. At that time, the young people, the ladies and the boys, used to go to the beach to do this ceremony for fertility right. And the traders at that moment, they used to catch the boys and the girls. So when the elders noticed that, they send their young people to check what happened, why the ladies are not returning. And they saw that they were kidnapped by the whites. So they start asking our ancestors, spirits. So what they can do, they say that if you want to avoid this problem, you have to kill you have to capture some of the traders and cut their necks and expose them on the sand. So when the others will come, seeing that they will never return. So the young people with their arrows, they try to catch some of them, kill them, and spread them on the sand. So when the others come to catch the young girls, they saw this image, they saw this what happened, and instead to go back, they send a lot of people, lot of warriors, a lot of them with their guns to kill the Bubi people, which villages were at the coast side. Okay, so that's why the Bubi people leave the coast to go to the mountains. That is why they go there. So that this is what our elders told us, and this is what I also read when I was in London, at the British Library. I read it also. So our elders fought these traders, these slave traders, but you know, at that time we didn't have these weapons. We have only these arrows, etc. So without good weapons, we couldn't fight these traders. That's why we decided to abandon the coast and to go to live up in the mountains. That's why.
And Mr. Sweeney, I don't know if you know this answer, or anyone, even Baba. What year someone on Wikipedia, what year did we start it, or not we, what year did they started introducing guns? Because guns I feel like guns are it's such a coward move, but you know, whatever. Like, what year was that roughly when guns were introduced? That changed the whole situation, right? I think we were doing really well with the spears and arrows and swords and things, and what year was that introduced? Guns.
Normally, in Bioko Island, the colonizers or the British, they introduced guns around 1910, 1908, 1910. Okay, 1908, 1908, 08. Okay, 19110. Okay, because at that moment, some of our Bubi chief had a gun, and he used the gun to kill some of the Spanish colonizers.
And what's the name of this chief again?
Luba. He used the guns to fight colonizers, but the colonizers go to the village and burn the village and kill everybody. At that time, yes, 1908, 1910, etc. But because in the 19th century, in the 18th century, no gun was used.
Right.
No one.
I'm going to bring in now our final panelists, and we can all kind of have this huge discussion that we're trying to make it do like a quick conversation, which is impossible, but we're going to do our best. I'm bringing Brother Gerard up here because his empire, depending on which history you listen to, some people dislike the Dahomey Empire because they said that, they had a huge part in the slave trade, right? And when I heard Brother Gerard speak about in our other broadcast, please watch it, which we talked about the Woman King, the untold story. I learned a little bit more about his people and what they actually did do. So let's talk a little bit about that gunfight, right? So Gerard, from what you know, Gerard, please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hello, Dada Shayla.
Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah. I thank you for this opportunity that you give me to talk about African culture, my history, my identity. You are a warrior. You are a woman warrior. Here we'll say you are a Mino, because what you're doing is almost the same work. That is the struggle to save our identity, to reconnect African of the diaspora to our roots. That is very great, and we only have prayers for you. May all the ancestors of the homeland bless you. Yeah. So I am living in Benin Republic, and as Shayla was saying, I am for Fon tribe. And when we're talking about Fon tribe, we're talking about Dahomey, which is the real name of Benin Republic. The name Benin Republic appears just in 1975 under the rule of President Mathieu Kérékou. So otherwise, it was Dahomey till 1975. So when we're talking about slave trade, we're talking about spirituality, West African culture, spirituality. You're talking about Asian Vodun, Caribbean, Dahomey is very, very important because it is considered as the root of all those spirituality. Yeah, me, myself, my work is to reconnect Africans of the diaspora to the root. And I have a YouTube channel. The name is Path to the Root. And I interview elders, priests of all type to talk about the culture. And also I am a tour guide, and I receive people, bring them to different touristic places. Also in spirituality, I guide people to reconnect to the ancestry, like a practice of Vodun, what is the right way, depending on their need, their request. That's it. And also have a Saturday school, because when I graduated from high school, I realized that no space was given to African history. And I was shocked that how come I read literature at school, and at the end of the day, I learned no literature about my own country. I know nothing about my history. I say, no, this cannot continue. We have to find a way out of schools, formal school, to teach our younger brothers and sisters what our history is, what our culture is. And we started that since 2015. So we are in the 7th year now. And we gather the kids from different schools and we teach them Pan-Africanism. We invite professors of different sides, I mean, university, Pan-Africanist, to give conference and talk about Africa. So that's what I've been doing, Dada Shayla. Thank you. I hope you understand the word Dada. Dada in Fongbe means elder sister. You see, Dada, that is what it means in Fongbe.
And that's crazy because Swahili means sister, just sister, Dada, sister.
Wow.
So they're really all truly connected.
Yeah.
So tell us, as we talk about the war part, and guys, I don't want to stay too long, we're talking about slavery. I think we've overslaved ourselves with slavery. I want to talk about moving forward, but I do want to hit on this one thing. So your empire, Gerard, it gets a little beat up. People say that your empire sold us, that you didn't fight for us, and that, and whatnot. So tell us, not quickly, but, not super long, what exactly did your empire do, as it pertains to slavery?
Yeah, slavery really started in Benin Republic with, I'm talking about transatlantic slave trade. In Benin, it started with King Agaja. And, before, Benin was a small kingdom. And we had a neighbor kingdom, Oyo, who was very powerful, let us say the most powerful in our region that time. So when the Beninese, because our people come from Ghana, we are from Ashanti people, the real word for us is Asante, but Europeans pronunciation make it Ashanti, we keep it like that. So from Ghana, we'll call at Ajatado, you see. And at Ajatado, there was a trial, you see. And the king of Aja, the trial was not in favor of the Fon people. And then they say that was injustice, that it was not fair, that they cannot let such a thing happen on the people. So they will conspire and assassinate, kill the king of Aja and run away. It is by running away that they will come to Benin, what is known as Benin Republic today. And the specific place they came to is Alada, the place of Toussaint Louverture. I think you know about Toussaint Louverture. And who is from Haiti, so he's from Benin Republic. So they came to Alada and they will set up their kingdom there. The real pronunciation of Alada, I like words because that is what make our history. Alada, the true word is Alenda, which means the crime or the sin I've committed is what has brought me here. So after committed a crime by killing the king of Aja, now we have come here. So Alenda, that is what Alada means. So it was the first kingdom of the Fon tribe. So they will stay there for a while, then decide to separate the group into three. One will go to women, more precisely Port Novo today, which is very close to Nigeria. And one will go to Dahomey, Abomey, okay? And one will stay at Alada. So the people, the group that went to Abomey will become more powerful than all the other groups. and will conquer more land. But behaving, the Oyo kingdom will hear about the Fon tribe and then decide that they have to chase them away because that land belongs to the Yoruba land, that it is still Oyo kingdom ruling up to the place the Fon people are occupying. So they will wage the war against the Fon tribe and win. Then the Fon people will negotiate and say, we understand you very powerful, you the king, but we would like you to allow us to stay on this land because our history, we can no longer go back to Aja. So the Oyo will say, okay, what are you paying in return? So every year, the Fon people will be paying the Oyo kingdom. He will be giving them 41 men, 41 women, 41 horses, and crops. So why did I go there? Because there is a link with the slave trade. The Dahomey kingdom has to pay human beings to the Oyo kingdom, Oyo empire.
Mm-hmm.
So the war captives, they need more war captives. They need also to strengthen the kingdom of Dahomey so that they will not be ever dependent on the Oyo kingdom. So they need more guns from Europeans, weapons, anything. So because the Europeans' contact with Dahomey was business at the first point. Like the European will buy palm oil from us, some crops, you know, and also they will buy men, I mean, human beings, the slave trade. So Dahomey need to wage more wars because it is the war captives that he will be given to the Oyo kingdom and also trading with Europeans. So that is how we can say Dahomey king. And this really was with King Agaja. You know, before King Agaja, we have Tegbesu. Tegbesu, because from Tegbesu, there will be a problem with the Oyo kingdom. One day, Oyo king asked Dahomey that this year, while sending the men and the women, he wants him to add one of his son, his elder son. You see, at that time, Tegbesu was young.
Uh-oh, we lost like 2 people. I don't know what just happened. That was odd. We lost Bahula and we lost Gerard, but we'll keep going. I was taking notes actually, and one of the things as we Bahula's back. That was so weird. Maybe StreamYard did something crazy.
I may be able to just continue a little bit of what he's saying.
Please. Yes, please.
And you know, we've talked before, and he's been on one of our platforms in Britain. You know, Gerard. One of the things that people are not aware of is the fact that Africans used to trade with one another before the Europeans came. And so when the Europeans came around the 1800s, which Gerard's talking about, the Oyo kingdom actually controlled the Dahomey with these particular items that they had to give them. And they'd come for these items, these 41 horses, 41 people, women, 41 men, that they came for that. But the point is, if they came from the coast, the Oyo people are from the coast, and they mainly traded with the British. And they also traded with the Portuguese first, and then later the British. But the simple point is, oh, he's back. He's back. Yep.
Yeah, so sorry, African internet.
By the way, guys, for the safety of time, I know this is I told you this is a huge conversation. We're already past an hour. So, Gerard, if you can make it say within 1 or 2 minutes, and then we're going to pivot because we do have another guest who's been patiently backstage, and Baba has to bless her, and so we want to get to that part, and then we'll wrap up the entire conversation with blessings. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, long story short, Dahomey, we cannot say that Dahomey didn't contribute to the slave trade, because if you do not collaborate with the Europeans, they will not buy slaves here. If they happen to convince you, you have to recognize that you are part of the trade. Now, there's anyway a king that is important because this is untold story, which is very important for our people to know. King Adandozan, who ruled just before King Gezo. King Adandozan is the one who really fought against the slave trade in Africa, in West Africa, or in Benin Republic. Because when he took the power, first of all, he said, from now on, we no longer given any man, any war captives to Europeans, nor to Oyo King. First of all, when Oyo King sent his messenger to claim for the taxes, King Adandoza will send him back a message. It was a sculpture. That's why artifact here is very important. It is philosophy. It was a sculpture of a human being, and the maize corn was, one maize corn was in his mouth, another one in the hand, and the sculpture has big stomach. And then he gave it to the messenger and tell him to give it to the Oyo King. So, arrived there, the Oyo King say, what is this? I asked it for taxes, and he will send me a sculpture. What exactly is King Adanoza saying? And then Oyo King will call for a wise person who will interpret and say that the king of Dahomey is telling him that what he took the other year is still in his stomach. The past year is still in his mouth. He has not finished chewing it. Another one is in his hand, and he's still claiming for another taxes that this time he's no longer going to have it. This is the starting point of the break. I mean, when Dahomey will quit the Oyo Empire, because there will be several wars, and finally Dahomey will be free. The same way, Adanoza will tell the Europeans that the only thing they can exchange here is crops. They bring the materials like guns for the army. They'll bring clothes, drinks, but only oil, materials, mines that they can exchange, but no more human beings. Then European didn't like it. He will now arrest Francisco Felix de Souza, who was the chief, the merchant chief. He's a Brazilian who was the chief of the traffic, the slave trade. He will stop the boats and then will be completely against the European business. But within the whole his own kingdom, the palace, there will be problem. People say, no, we want this, we have to do this. Are you sure you can face the Oyo people right now? So there will be a lot of problem. He will free the Europeans from the jail, but he will say, okay, if you want we to continue selling our war captives to Europeans, so for them to bring it to a land that we don't know, then I think we have to take our own people to give it to the European so that we realize if this thing is good or not. He will then take Gezo mother. Gezo is the king after Adanozan, but he's omitted from the genealogy, I mean the dynasty. Now, he will take Gezo's mother and sell it to the Europeans. There'll be rumors and they will say, no, we'll not sell her. And then the Francisco de Souza, the merchants of slave trade, Gomez Boaventura, and the Rivera, they will together plot and organize a putsch, and they will remove King Adanozan and place Gezo there. And Gezo will be in their favor to continue the slave trade. But Dahomey being a highly spiritual land, there will be problem in the palace and in the kingdom, so that Gezo will reconsider his position and say that we have to stop this. So briefly speaking, there were people for the trade and there were people against the trade. And also it is very important to separate the kingship from the priesthood. Because when we're talking about spirituality, the Vodou priests are other people. They are under the king. The king are political leaders. They are the decision makers. So the trade has never been accepted by the priesthood, but only the king and some king, more precisely King Agaja. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you so much for the history, because I wanted to lead us up to now forgiveness and forging that new way, you know. And a part of being ancestral Bubi is we're doing a lot of work in that. And Bahula, we're going to get to your work, diversity, etcho. But I wanted to go ahead finally, because she has been so patient. She's been so patient. I wanted to bring Sister Audrey in, and just briefly, Audrey, I need you to just tell your ancestry story, but really quickly, what we have really special lined up for her. And I'm going to take Gerard and Linford, I'm going to bring y'all back. I'm going to remove you really quickly. But we have something really special for her, because we told you guys, if you wanted, we was going to have you come on the live broadcast and you'll get your Bobe name from Dr. Bolikia, from an elder. So first, Audrey, tell us really quickly, because Baba gotta go, everybody gotta go. But tell us really quickly about your ancestry experience with Resplendence, and then Baba will name you.
Okay. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am more than thrilled. This is just the epitome of all of my genealogical research. I'll make this real quick. I just started on my own personal genealogy journey decades ago. My youngest child was an infant. She's in her 30s now, and I would go downtown to DC. I live in Washington, DC, and I would go downtown to the National Archives and practically close the place out, looking for records and just looking. This was even before the internet, so I was reading microfilm, and then I would go to where the Mormon Temple is up here in Rockville, Maryland, and their family history library, and continue to do microfilm. And finally, one day I saw some ancestors' names on a list of ownership, and I almost cried sitting there. I'm like, there you are. These were names that I had heard. So I just continued my journey. I've done research. I've walked around cemeteries, just looking and looking and looking. So I kind of became the family historian. And I think a lot of times they got tired of me. I'm gonna use my middle name, Jean. And they were like, who else what other dead people are you going to dig up in our ancestry? And I said, this is important. They lived, they died, they had dogs, they had cats, they had children who went to school, they raised chickens, they celebrated birthdays just the way we did. They are ours, and we need to celebrate them and put some skin onto their bones. So long dead, because I'm sure somewhere in their minds, just the way we look towards the future, I have one grandson now, and don't know if I'm gonna get any more grandchildren from my other children, but somewhere in the back of all of our minds is, who's next? Who gets this next? Who is going to understand the family history? So I've got all kinds of books and journals and everything. So bringing it on forward, I had given my mother, she's passed now, but my mother I had made sure that I tried the ancestry.com test, and she wasn't too cool about spitting into a little tube and wondered why she was doing it. I said, "Ma, this is to find out who you are, who we are." So her ancestry came Benin and Togo, Benin. Okay. Now didn't know which part of her that was, but then I dug a little deeper. And then when African ancestry made its appearance on the scene, I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And the results came back with, I don't know what percentage off the top of my head, but Tikar, Cameroon, first of all, Tikar, Fulani, and Hausa, and then specifically, and the Bubi people of Bioko Island. I'm like, what? It just, it takes your breath away. It really, really does. I remember Barbara, because we were in the class together, and her discovery moment, and you said, I carry the DNA from somebody clear across the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. How did that happen? It only happened through slavery and slave traders. And when you realize that, the enormity of it all, how did I get here? That touches a place deep, deep inside of you that I don't think anybody can take away. And to realize that my foremother, I don't know how many generations back, and then I got another quick story for that. I don't know who my first African was on these shores. I wish I could find out. I wish I could find out the names of the ships that plied that stole ancestors from right there off Bioko Island. I have an idea, but it would take more research maybe than I'm equipped to do. The White Lion and the Voadora were two. I want to look at the ones that really, really traded in Equatorial Guinea before they made their trek across the waters. That's where I'm looking. But I know names change. My ancestral mother, and so I kept going back. I'm working on a woman by the name of Martha, who is my 3 times great-grandmother from Lynchburg, Virginia. But at any rate, she is the maternal DNA line that I'm following. I may never get beyond her with records. I may never get a slave name, but to know that I carry the DNA of somebody who was stolen from Bioko Island it's mind-boggling. It leaves you speechless. So, and then...
Go ahead.
Oh, so then... honestly, Shayla, I don't remember how I found Resplendent's language arts. I don't know whether I was just.
It was the ancestors. That's how.
Yeah, she said, go here. And then I took the course, and I really need to go back and to practice. And I'm going to make it a point this year. My sort of New Year's resolution is to get on YouTube and learn some phrases. I was so proud, even not knowing Barbara, but I'm going to say, look at her. She was in the same class as me. And now she's teaching the language. And when I heard what you had done, you had the opportunity to go to Madrid, Spain. I can't travel that far, but I wish I could have. But to hear what you have done for Resplendence and for the knowledge of anyone who wants it, who is part of our people, is my hats off to you. Please keep it up. So all I can remember is Koboyalo from Dr. Bolekia's instruction. I have to go back.
Don't forget Putuo. Thank you. Yeah.
And the fun part, I'm kind of comfortable in Spanish because I've had to use it. I'm a teacher, a regular public school teacher. And of course, we have a diverse community, and my students a lot of times are from the Spanish-speaking countries. So I'm slightly comfortable with it. Took it all through elementary school, junior high school, and had to use it in my own profession. So between that, and I was the biggest, maybe not the biggest takeaway, but Dr. Bolikia, when you sang that song, and I think it was a 5-session, we had 5 weeks of Saturdays to attend. And I think you brought it to a close when you sang that song about the mothers asking, where are my daughters? That brought tears to my eyes because they're going down to the ocean wondering what happened to my child. Any of us, whether you're a biological mom or not, anybody who has anything to do with children, can you imagine what would happen if you it's tough now. Parents send our kids out the door, and sometimes they don't come home because somebody shot them. You know, that's the kind of culture we're living in. But to send your child to where they should be for the day and to not have them ever come back is heartrending. And I want to thank Professor Bolikia for singing that song, because it struck a chord in me. It really, really did.
So you'll see I moved my name. Bahula, I want you to say what yours mean. I'll tell you what mine mean. And then Baba is going to bless you, Sister, with them, Audrey. So my name is Eche Waiso. Did I say that right, Baba?
Yes.
And it means a woman's truth or a true woman.
Yes.
That really speaks to me, because it's nothing better than to be called a true woman.
That's right.
Yes.
And so, Bahula, do you want to tell everyone what your name means?
Bahula means blessing.
Nice.
Yes.
All right. Now, Baba, it's your turn to give Miss Audrey her name. And Audrey, you're going to get an email of it too, okay?
Okay.
Yes. So after listening Miss Audrey, and after reading something about her characters, etc., I choose specific name is Bula Ibedri. Bula Ibedri.
Bula
Ibedri.
Betri. Bula.
Bedri is the princess of songs. Bula Ibedri, the princess of songs. Bula Ibedri, the princess of song.
Oh, don't cry. You're going to make me cry. Please don't do that. Oh, my God.
Would you spell that, please? How is it? How do I write it?
Oh.
I think I have the writing. Hold on for a second. Let me see if I can bring it up here.
Bula Ibedri.
Oh, Bula.
You know.
Oh my gosh.
I can't. This is
You know.
It's ownership.
Yes.
I think it's BULA and then it's BE, but the E has 2 dots over it. RI, right? Did I spell that right?
Yes.
Say it one more time. Bula.
I put it in the chat.
Ibedri.
Okay.
I think I'm just missing the E. Is the E with a Y or E?
Is I.
I.
E is I.
Okay.
Ibedri.
Bula. Betri.
Right. The E has the 2 dots over. I forget what those 2 dots.
Yes.
So Koboyalo e Bula Ibedri.
And it means
Koboyalo e Bula Ibedri. I greet you, princess of songs.
Oh.
Koboyalo, Dr. Bolikia. Thank you.
Terrible Kuba Oyale.
What did you just say?
Oyale. All our ancestors will assist you in the search of who you are. Terrible Kuba Oyale. Just say Poto.
Poto.
I will repeat it again. Terrible Kuba Oyale. Just say Poto.
Poto.
I will repeat it again. I don't need to remember what you have to answer. Terrible Kuba Oyale.
Poto.
Okay.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you.
I'm going to take you from the stream. We'll be emailing you your name too if you need us to. And we're going to almost just about close out. I can literally, y'all, if we were in person, I would have me a glass of wine and I can just literally talk all day. I mean, because we didn't even talk about spirituality. I was hoping we can, talk a little bit about spirituality because that's so important. Yes, Baba.
Mr. Sweeney, sorry,
Yes,
I have to leave. Thank you for being there.
So yes,
I would like to stay until the end, but I'm not home now. I have to move. I'm in Fuenlabrada, you know where. So I have to go to Madrid.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
It's
you.
been wonderful
no,
listening to
we're
you.
about to end
Thank you.
anyway, but thank you, Baba.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
May God bless you. I'm gonna remove you. So we're pretty much ending now. But essentially, like the goal today, I think we just about noted. I did want to touch on spirituality. Perhaps we'll have to have another broadcast about that because that can go on for hours. Me and my siblings, we actually talk about spirituality and manifestation and things and speaking. You know, here's what we're gonna end on. Okay. My older sister, she said something so freaking brilliant today. I was like, wow, okay. She said, your tongue is like a wand. So it casts whatever you want it to cast. Your tongue is as a wand. So as we cast our future, as we talk about our future as a people, as we talk about reconnection, as we talk about returning home, as we talk about reclaiming our time and reclaiming our reconnections, we also have to speak it into life. We also have to use our tongue as our magical wand, you know, as we navigate through all of this. So next broadcast, we are going to do that. I'm going to put that out in the universe. We're going to talk about spirituality. We're going to bring on more people about spirituality and music. So you'll definitely stay tuned and look for that update and that notification. I want to thank Baba Bolikia. I want to thank Brother Gerard. I want to thank Sister Bahula. And of course, last but not least, I want to thank Mr. Sweeney. Did Bahula, we didn't even get an opportunity to talk about diversity at show. But if you go over to Instagram land, she did speak about it in detail there on a broadcast we did. I think it was on Thursday or Wednesday, 3 days ago. But Mr. Sweeney, is there any upcoming projects you have or anything that you want to leave our guests with today? And again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for the audience. Please share and like and subscribe and talk and send it to all your friends and family. I think this was a great conversation. Mr. Sweeney, any last things about your projects upcoming?
Yeah.
Broadcast.
Obviously, we're in December at the moment, but I'm actually planning, what's going on next year. I'm involved in 2 projects next year. One is to do with the Windrush generation. I'm one of the coordinators of the Windrush Generation project in Manchester, in England, and that's to do with the people who came from the Caribbean in 1948, between 1948 and 1973, to work to rebuild this country after the Second World War, of which my parents were part of that, and I'm part of that. Next year is the 75th anniversary. So we're hoping to have a really big event or a whole series of events during June of next year. The second thing that I'm doing, I've started a writing class where people can come along who are writers, poets, authors of any kind in Manchester, and we're going to be using that as a way to actually teach a bit of history and to help people to understand themselves and at the same time to be creative. Those are the 2 main things I'm doing, apart from running more classes around Black history.
Website? Tell everybody your website.
Yeah, my website is at inspiredhistories.com. And on my website, you will find most of this information. I now need to update my website for January. So, because I've decided to, change a few things, change things up. I'm interested. You should talk about what you were saying before about looking forwards. I'm now changing up the way that I actually teach history. And I will be teaching history in a more positive light, and to look at how people can actually move forward. We look at Black achievers. We look at how you can achieve more in your own lifetime, rather than just looking back at those who have achieved. Let's look at the ones who are achieving now, or the younger ones. How can you actually mentor them and coach them to achieve more in the future?
I love it. Thank you so much, Mrs. Sweeney. And then Miss Bahula. And thank you. Go to the website, please, and register for his classes. That's so important. Thank you so much, Mr. Sweeney, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
And then Miss Bahula, tell everybody about your website and your projects and so forth and upcoming events.
Okay. The website is diversityechoproject.com, and you can go there and actually read all of our magazines. Akoto magazine, it's a monthly magazine, so there's 9 issues out right now. And you can go there. There's a lot of good information, and each issue is about one person. It's about an individual. So you get that unique perspective, and whenever I do the magazine, I always learn something. So go there and check it out. And also we have language videos on there. We have vocabulary, and we have some videos where like talking to one another and stuff. So you can learn some Echo there. So go to the site and learn that. And of course, in January, I'll be teaching the beginner Bubi language class starting January, I believe, 22nd.
I think so too. Well, thank you so much, Sister Bahula, for being. May the ancestors and the one God bless you. I don't know how to say you're welcome. I can say Caribou Sana. Thanks. You're welcome. You're very much welcome. Caribou Sana, you're very much welcome. So guys, as we conclude this live, again, thank you so much for being a part of this experience today. Of course, we got to shout out all of the tribe at respondents for such the hard work that you guys have been doing year in and year out. Finally, I want to make sure that you guys do go to our website as well, which is resplendensla.com. The LA stands for Language Arts, because as we expand our new horizons, we want to include not just language, but other opportunities too. Currently, we have our flagship location that will be starting next year, unfortunately, in Zanzibar. Please get on the VIP to understand and what's going on with that project. We also work with several homeschool collectives to teach our children early on, to include Sankofa Collective. I love Sankofa. We also work with Connected to Culture. We also work with, I think I'm missing a lot of other ones, but we work with a lot of people where we're making this experience and dream into a reality for all of us, into real life for all of us. Our classes do start in January. We have about 11 or 12 languages that's available this January, which is Fon, that's available in private, Fula, Mandinka, Creole, Bobe, Echo, same thing, Swahili, Tree, Yoruba, Spanish. Like we have you covered, all right? And probably this time next year, we'll have some exciting more opportunities for you guys to just come and invite you into our space and love on one another. That's it. And reconnect like a family reunion, like a cookout. So without further ado, because that's my favorite word to say when I'm like getting out of here. Thank you guys so much for being involved, for being a part of our courses. Our courses are now $140 for January, so you have no reason. I think it's like $7 a class. That's 20 classes, 20 sessions for only $140. That's less than to fill up your gas with car 3 times. I mean, come on, guys. Let's think about this. And this is something, knowing a language is going to stay with you, and the history and the culture stays with you for a lifetime. So you can pass along that information down to your young children or your cousins or your nieces and nephews. This is information that's invaluable, right? So I hope to see you guys again in our next live. I hope to see you guys in our classes. I'm going to throw up the deuce, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.